My mother always warned me that my best friend's dad was a monster, and for years I believed her. But when I finally discovered the real truth and confronted her, she tried to silence me and move us away overnight. That's when I started digging deeper, and what I uncovered was so disturbing I don't think I'll ever be able to forget it. When I was 12, Brian joined my class. He was tall, athletic, and seemed destined for popularity. Instead, the entire classroom turned ashen the moment he entered. Even the teacher herself grew visibly pale. I was clearly unaware of the prevailing sentiment. Regardless, I chose to sit beside him during lunch. Everyone, including Brian, gave me a peculiar look. "You actually want to be my friend?" he inquired, quite astonished. We spent the remainder of the day thoroughly enjoying ourselves. Having no friends at the time, I returned home eager to share the news of my new acquaintance with my mother. However, upon hearing his name, her face drained of color. "Stay away from that child. He and his father are monsters. They assaulted and hospitalized their mother." I was utterly stunned. The following morning, my mother drove me to school instead of allowing me to walk. She marched directly to my teacher and whispered something that caused Mrs. Squelch to nod gravely. When I attempted to sit near Brian in class, Mrs. Squelch relocated my desk. I glanced at Brian from across the room and noticed him on the verge of tears. During recess, he stood alone by the fence while everyone else played. After school, the reason became apparent. Brian's father arrived, and the entire pickup area swiftly emptied. Parents clutched their children, quickening their pace to their vehicles. One mother actually cautioned her daughter, "Don't look at him, sweetie." Brian's father simply sat there, head bowed, as Brian got into the car. Everyone treated them as if they were dreadful, yet it didn't quite make sense. Brian's father would pack extra granola bars for students who forgot lunch money, and Brian willingly stayed after school to assist children with special needs. It seemed impossible that this was the family responsible for harming their own mother. Then came the day I understood who Brian and his father truly were. I was walking home, counting the $50 my grandmother had given me for my birthday, when 3 eighth graders encircled me. "Look at the rich boy," the largest one sneered, pushing me to the ground. They seized my money, and one of them kicked me in the ribs. I curled up, anticipating further blows, when suddenly they all scattered. Brian's father stood there, not physically engaging anyone, just present. "Are you all right, kid?" he asked before helping me up. He walked me home, saying little else. When I recounted the incident to my mother, she became completely distraught. "He approached you? What if he had taken you somewhere?" She immediately contacted the school. "A known abuser confronted my son?" she repeatedly exclaimed. By the next day, the entire school was aware. The principal circulated an email prohibiting Brian's father from school grounds. Parents shared it on social media, labeling him a predator who loitered around children at school. Brian appeared devastated, his head resting on his desk for most of the day. When I attempted to discreetly pass him a note expressing gratitude for his father's help, he pushed it back. "Please don't," he whispered. "You're making things worse for him." 2 weeks later, I discovered Brian weeping in the library. He tried to conceal it, but his shoulders trembled. I sat down beside him regardless. "They spray-painted Predator on his car," Brian confided. "He lost his job because of it. We might lose our apartment." He vigorously wiped his eyes. "Everyone despises him, but they know nothing." "What do you mean?" I inquired. Brian looked around to ensure we were alone. Then he revealed the shocking truth. He and his father had never assaulted their mother. In fact, it was the reverse. Their mother had physically abused them. She would hurl bottles, shatter pans and plates, and use lighters. Brian still bore a burn mark on his back from one such incident. "Then why was your dad blamed?" I pressed him. It was then that he broke down completely. He disclosed that his mother, in addition to her violence, consistently threatened his father, vowing that if he ever left and took Brian, she would accuse him of abuse. My face went pale. "And that's precisely what she did," Brian said, tears streaming. "When Dad took me, and we finally departed, she took him to court and fabricated everything." "Then why does everyone say you are guilty?" "Because they're ignorant, unable to perform a simple online search," he retorted. He then produced his phone and showed me something that fundamentally altered my perception of them. He displayed screenshots of police reports, court documents, and medical records. There were photographs of bruises on his father's arms, a hospital report from when his mother threw a glass bottle at his head, and multiple restraining order applications his father had filed but subsequently withdrawn. The dates spanned years. Brian scrolled through photo after photo, each one intensifying my nausea. I seized his phone and began capturing images with my own. Brian tried to stop me, but I shook my head. "People need to see this." "No." Brian snatched his phone back. "You don't understand. She'll make it worse. She always does." The bell rang, signaling the end of our conversation, and we had to attend class. I found myself unable to concentrate. Every time I looked at Brian, slumped over his desk, I recalled those images, his father sitting in his car with Predator faintly visible beneath a layer of cheap paint, and how everyone, including my own mother, had embraced the falsehood. After school, my mother was waiting in the pickup line. She barely allowed me to enter the car before beginning. I heard you were speaking with that Brian kid in the library. What did I tell you? Mom, you don't understand. No discussion. You are to stay away from him. She tightened her grip on the steering wheel. His father is dangerous. The entire community knows it. But what if they're mistaken? I pulled out my phone. What if I could show you? My mother slammed on the brakes at a red light and turned to me. Whatever fabricated story they fed you, I have no desire to hear it. Abusers invariably claim to be victims, always. At home, I went directly to my room and commenced my research. I located the court case online. Public records indicated that Brian's mother had initially been granted full custody, but Brian chose to live with his father when he turned 12. It was then that she filed the abuse allegations. The timing seemed highly suspicious. I compiled a document on my computer, organizing all the information, the photos from Brian's phone, the court timeline, and the fact that Brian's father had never actually been convicted of anything, only accused. I was deeply engrossed in my investigation when my mother appeared in my doorway. What are you doing? I quickly minimized the window. Homework. She approached and reopened it. Her expression shifted from confusion to fury in mere seconds. You took pictures of their fabricated evidence? Are you insane? It's not fake. Look at the dates. Look at the... Delete it now. When I hesitated, she confiscated my phone. I am keeping this until you learn to make better choices. And you are grounded. No computer except for homework, and I will be checking. The next few days at school were agonizing. I attempted to discreetly pass Brian notes, but teachers consistently separated us. Children began to whisper as I passed. That's the kid who associates with the abuser's son. I overheard someone remark. I began utilizing the library computers during lunch. The librarian, Mrs. Chun, paid little attention as long as one remained quiet. I delved deeper into public records. Brian's mother, Catherine, possessed a significant history. 2 prior restraining orders from former boyfriends, an arrest for assault at a bar, all preceding her relationship with Brian's father. I was printing pages when someone cleared their throat behind me. Mrs. Patterson, the most intrusive parent volunteer, stood there with her arms crossed. Shouldn't you be at lunch? I snatched the papers and crammed them into my backpack. Just finishing homework. That afternoon, my mother was waiting in the principal's office when I was summoned. Mrs. Patterson sat beside her, looking self-satisfied. Principal Morrison held up the printed pages. Care to explain why you are researching restraining orders during school hours? My mother's face was unyielding. We will discuss this at home. The car ride was silent until we pulled into our driveway. Then my mother erupted. Mrs. Patterson told me everything. You are obsessed with defending these people. What is wrong with you? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with everyone else? I shouted back. You are destroying an innocent family because you are too stubborn to examine the evidence. Go to your room. You are not leaving this house except for school until you get your head straight. I stomped upstairs and slammed my door. Outside my window, I could see Mrs. Patterson's house across the street. She was likely already messaging the other mothers about my alarming conduct at school. The next day, it worsened. Children moved away when I sat down. My usual lunch table was suddenly occupied. Even teachers regarded me differently. Brian caught my eye in the hallway and mouthed, "I'm sorry." I ate lunch alone in the bathroom stall, devising my next move. My mother had confiscated my phone and restricted my computer access, but she could not prevent me from utilizing school resources. I simply needed to be more strategic. Over the subsequent week, I established a routine. I would volunteer to assist teachers after school, then use their computers when they stepped out. I uncovered more about Catherine. She had been dismissed from 3 jobs due to interpersonal conflicts. Her social media, before it became private, was filled with angry tirades about former boyfriends who had wronged her. Brian began leaving me notes in library books, small updates. His dad lost another job interview when they searched for him online. Landlord wants us out by end of month. Dad won't eat, says food should go to me. Each note intensified my anger. I started meticulously recording everything in a notebook I kept concealed in my locker. Evidence, dates, connections. I was constructing a case. Then my mother discovered my after-school computer use. Mrs. Patterson's daughter had seen me and reported back. My mother arrived at school, furious. I've had enough, she informed Principal Morrison. I am concerned about the influence this family has on my son. He is lying, sneaking around, obsessing over them. Principal Morrison nodded gravely. We have noticed changes in his behavior too. I want assurance that my son will have no contact with Brian at school. We will do our best to monitor the situation. They rearranged my classes to prevent me from seeing Brian. They assigned me a different lunch period. A guidance counselor began pulling me out of class for check-ins, asking how I was feeling and if I wished to discuss my recent choices. But they could not stop me from thinking, from planning, from knowing that somewhere in town, Brian and his father were suffering because everyone chose comforting falsehoods over uncomfortable truths. One day, I encountered Brian's father at the grocery store. He was purchasing the cheapest bread and a jar of peanut butter. His clothes hung loosely, as if he had lost weight. When he noticed me, he quickly averted his gaze and headed for the checkout. I followed him outside. "Mr. Davidson." He paused, but did not turn around. "You shouldn't speak to me. It will only worsen things for you. I know the truth." Brian showed me. His shoulders slumped. The truth holds no weight when no one wishes to hear it. "I want to help." He finally turned. His eyes were red-rimmed and weary. "You are a good kid, but stay away from us for your own well-being." He drove off in his car, Predator still faintly visible beneath a layer of cheap paint. That night, my mother came to my room with her laptop. "I want to show you something." She pulled up the parent social media group. Post after post about Brian's father. Saw him lurking near the playground. He followed my daughter in the store. "Why isn't he incarcerated yet?" "These are lies," I asserted. "He is simply existing, and they are making it sound criminal." 300 parents cannot all be mistaken, my mother countered, closing the laptop. "I am trying to protect you. This man is manipulating you through his son. You are the one being manipulated by gossip and fear." "Enough." My mother stood up. "I have arranged appointments with a therapist, someone who specializes in children who have been influenced by dangerous individuals." My blood ran cold. "You think I am brainwashed? I think you are confused, and I am going to rectify this." She left me alone with my fury. They were constructing barriers around me, attempting to compel me to abandon Brian and his father, but obstacles had never deterred me before. Late that night, I overheard my mother on the phone. "Yes, I am very concerned. He is obsessed with proving their innocence, taking pictures of supposed evidence. I believe they have truly gotten into his head." I recognized the carefully modulated tone. She was building her own case, portraying me as unstable, obsessed, manipulated, the very same strategy Catherine had employed against Brian's father. I gazed at my ceiling, contemplating how everyone embraced the narrative because it was simpler than questioning it, because a mother's tears in court were more persuasive than a father's quiet denials, because once a story was established, altering it meant admitting one had been wrong, and no one desired to acknowledge they had contributed to the destruction of an innocent family. But I possessed time, I possessed resolve, and most importantly, I possessed the truth. They could seize my phone, restrict my computer, separate me from Brian at school. They could whisper about me, isolate me, even send me to therapy. But they could not alter what I knew. Brian's father was innocent, Brian was suffering, and somehow, I was going to prove it to everyone, even if it meant becoming an outcast myself, even if it meant confronting my own mother, even if the entire town turned against me. Because sometimes, the truth is worth becoming the antagonist in everyone else's narrative. The next morning, I awoke with a strategy. It was perilous, likely foolish, and would undoubtedly land me in further trouble, but Brian's latest note indicated they had 2 weeks before eviction. 2 weeks to change everything. 2 weeks to expose Catherine's deceptions. 2 weeks to rescue my friend's family. I dressed for school, kissed my mother goodbye as if nothing were amiss, and mentally prepared for conflict. They believed they had broken me with isolation and threats of therapy. They had no idea of my capabilities when I knew I was in the right. During first period, I requested to use the restroom and instead slipped into the computer lab. The room was empty save for a 7th grader working on a project. I logged into a terminal in the corner and accessed Catherine's social media profiles using a false account I had created weeks prior. Her post from 3 years ago depicted a different image than the grieving mother everyone now perceived. Photos at bars, angry rants about irresponsible men, and one particularly revealing post. Some people just need to learn their lesson the hard way. I always get what I want in the end. I screenshotted everything and emailed it to a new account before the bell rang. As I returned to class, I noticed Brian was not in his usual seat. His desk remained vacant. At lunch, I discovered his note in our customary book. "Dad collapsed yesterday. Not eating enough. Hospital won't admit him. No insurance. We're sleeping in the car now." My hands trembled as I read it. They were residing in their car, while Catherine likely sat comfortably in the house Brian's father had financed. I had to act more swiftly. After school, I informed my mother I was staying for math tutoring. She would verify with the teacher later, but that afforded me an hour. I sprinted to the public library, 6 blocks away. The computers there did not require student logins. I had been researching for 20 minutes when Catherine walked in. She bore no resemblance to the broken woman from the court photos. Designer clothes, a fresh manicure, a confident gait. She headed directly for the fiction section, and I ducked behind my monitor. My heart pounded as she browsed, occasionally glancing around. Was she there by chance, or had someone informed her of my library visits? She departed after 10 minutes, but I could not shake the feeling she had seen me. I gathered my belongings and took a different route home, cutting through the park. My mother was waiting on the porch. Math tutoring ended an hour ago. I walked with some friends. Mrs. Patterson saw you at the library. She held up her phone, displaying a photo of me at the computer. She's concerned you are still investigating that family. I remained silent as she led me inside. The therapy appointment could not arrive soon enough for her. That night, I overheard arguing downstairs. My father had returned from his business trip, and my mother was briefing him. He's obsessed, Tom, taking pictures of documents, researching the mother, constantly defending them. Perhaps we should hear him out, my father said quietly. What if there's more to the story? Not you two. My mother's voice rose. That man is dangerous. The entire community knows it. The entire community has been mistaken before, my father countered. Their argument persisted, but I felt a glimmer of hope. My father had always been more rational, less swayed by hearsay. Perhaps I could persuade him. The next morning, Brian was absent from school again. I overheard teachers remarking he had been absent for 3 days now, probably too embarrassed to show his face. One said, after what his father did. I longed to scream that they had it all wrong, but I remained quiet, allowing them to believe I had given up. During library time, I discovered a note in our book, but it was not Brian's handwriting. Stop digging, or your friend pays the price. Catherine knew. She knew I was investigating her. My hands trembled as I pocketed the note. This was escalating beyond mere parental drama and school gossip. After school, I persuaded my father to drive me past Brian's former apartment. The car was not in the parking lot. We checked 3 other lots before I spotted it behind a grocery store. Brian's father was slumped in the driver's seat, and Brian was curled up in the back. Dad, please, I pleaded, look at them. Does that look like a dangerous man to you? My father stared for a long moment. Get back in the car. But instead of driving home, he pulled into the grocery store. He purchased 2 bags of groceries and a hot rotisserie chicken. Stay here, he instructed me. I watched him approach their car and gently knocked on the window. Brian's dad jolted awake, fear flickering across his face. But my father simply held up the bags. They conversed for a few minutes, Brian's father repeatedly shaking his head. Finally, my father placed the groceries on their hood and returned. He wouldn't take them at first, my father said as we drove away. Said he didn't want charity. I told him it wasn't charity, just one father helping another. That night, my parents had another argument, but this time I heard my father say, "What if we're wrong, Janet? What if we're destroying an innocent family?" Thursday arrived too quickly. The therapist's office smelled of vanilla candles and featured inspirational posters on every wall. Dr. Reeves appeared exactly as I had anticipated, wire-rimmed glasses, a sympathetic smile, a notebook at the ready. Your mother tells me you have been defending a classmate whose father has a concerning history, she began. I chose my words carefully. I have seen evidence that the story everyone believes might not be true. Sometimes when we care about someone, we want to believe the best about them, she said gently. But that can blind us to red flags. What if the red flags are pointing at the wrong person? We went in circles for an hour. She would suggest I was being manipulated. I would counter with facts. She would speak of trusting community judgment. I would point out communities have been mistaken before. By the end, she appeared frustrated. I would like to see you weekly, she informed my mother. He is showing signs of oppositional defiance. Great. Now I had a label. Friday morning, I located Brian at school. He looked terrible. Unwashed clothes, hollow eyes, hands trembling slightly. Are you okay? I whispered as I passed. He shook his head minutely. She called Dad yesterday. Said she'd drop the restraining order if we came back. Dad said no. She got angry. What did she do? Nothing yet. That's what scares me. During lunch, I used a teacher's computer while she was at a meeting. I told her I needed to print homework. Instead, I logged into the email account where I had been saving evidence. There was a new message. No sender name. Just, you were warned. Attached was a photo of me at the library computer, taken from behind. Catherine had been observing me that day. My hidden phone, which I had concealed in my locker, buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Your friend looks tired. Sleeping in cars is so dangerous. Anything could happen. I screenshotted the thread and added it to my evidence file. Catherine was growing bolder. That afternoon, Principal Morrison summoned me to his office. My mother was there, along with Mrs. Patterson and 2 other parent volunteers. We are concerned about your behavior, Morrison began. Multiple parents have reported seeing you researching private information about a family in our community. I am trying to help them, I stated. By spreading lies? Mrs. Patterson leaned forward. That poor woman has suffered enough without you dragging her name through the mud. Have any of you actually looked at the evidence? I asked. Or are you just believing what you want to believe? My mother's face flushed. Apologize now. For what? Asking questions. The meeting deteriorated from there. They discussed suspension, limiting my computer access at school, and increasing therapy to twice weekly. I sat silently, allowing them to plan my punishment while Brian and his father slept in their car. That night, I overheard my mother on the phone with Catherine. I am so sorry for what my son has been doing. Yes, we are handling it. No, he won't bother you anymore. Of course, if there's anything else. She was apologizing to the abuser, promising to silence me. I wanted to scream. Saturday morning, my father took me to get a haircut. On the way, he said quietly, I drove by that grocery store again last night. They are still there because they have nowhere else to go. Your mother means well, he said. She's trying to protect you. From what? From helping innocent people. My father was quiet for a long moment. Show me your evidence. I stared at him. Really? I am willing to look, but if I am not convinced, you drop this. I agreed immediately. That night, while my mother was at book club, I showed my father everything. The photos Brian had shared, the court documents, Catherine's social media posts, her history of restraining orders, the threatening messages. My father studied each piece carefully. His expression grew more troubled with each page. This is substantial, he finally conceded. So you believe me? I believe there's more to this story than we have been told. He rubbed his face. But your mother will never accept this. Neither will the community. They have invested too much in their version. So we just let them suffer? I didn't say that. My father looked thoughtful. But we need to be smart about this. Catherine clearly knows you are investigating these threats. We should go to the police with what? She's careful. Nothing directly threatening enough for them to act on. My father's phone rang. My mother was calling to say book club was ending early. He quickly helped me conceal the evidence. We will figure something out, he promised. But be careful. Don't do anything reckless. Sunday passed quietly, perhaps too quietly. No notes from Brian, no threats from Catherine. The calm made me uneasy. Monday morning, everything erupted. I arrived at school to discover police cars in the parking lot. Students clustered in groups, whispering excitedly. I pushed through until I could see what was happening. Brian's father was in handcuffs. Brian stood beside a police car, tears streaming down his face. Catherine was also there, holding a bloody tissue to her nose, speaking animatedly to an officer. He attacked me, she was saying. I just wanted to talk about our son, and he went crazy. I immediately understood what had transpired. She had provoked him somehow, perhaps injured herself, and summoned the police. A classic abuser tactic. Provoke a reaction, then play the victim. That's not true, I shouted, pushing forward. She's lying. An officer stopped me. Stay back, son. But I have evidence. She's the abuser, not him. Catherine's eyes met mine over the officer's shoulder. She smiled slightly, triumphantly. They placed Brian's father in the police car. Brian attempted to go with him, but Catherine seized his arm. You're coming home with me, sweetheart, where you belong. No. Brian tried to pull away. I won't go with you. He's my son, Catherine informed the officers. I have custody. He's just confused because his father has been filling his head with lies. They compelled Brian to go with her. I watched helplessly as she led him to her car, her grip tight on his arm. He looked back at me, terrified. At home, I recounted everything to my father. He immediately contacted a lawyer friend, but the news was not good. With Catherine's new accusation, Brian's father would likely be held at least overnight, and with existing custody orders, Catherine had every right to take Brian. We need those threats she sent, my father stated. They show she has been planning this. But when I checked my hidden phone, the messages were gone. Somehow, she had remotely deleted them. I still possessed the screenshots in my email, but would anyone believe they were authentic? That night, I lay awake, pondering Brian in that house with her. Was she harming him? Was he all right? Tuesday morning, Brian was absent from school. I overheard teachers saying Catherine had called to explain he was traumatized and required time to readjust. I knew better. She was holding him captive. During lunch, I slipped out. I knew I had promised my father not to be reckless, but I could not leave Brian there. I ran the 8 blocks to Catherine's house. The curtains were drawn, but I could hear shouting inside, then a crash, then Brian's voice, high and frightened. Please, Mom. I'm sorry. I dialed 911 from my hidden phone. I believe someone is being harmed at 438 Maple Street. I can hear screaming and things breaking. I waited behind a tree until the police arrived. They knocked, and Catherine answered, looking perfectly composed. Officers, is something wrong? We received a call about a disturbance. Oh, that must have been the TV. I was watching an action movie. Sorry if it was too loud. They believed her. They actually believed her. I wanted to scream that Brian was inside, likely injured, but I knew they would simply contact my parents. After they departed, Catherine stepped onto her porch and looked directly at my hiding spot. I know you're there, she called sweetly. Brian wants to tell you something. Brian appeared in the doorway. Even from a distance, I could discern the red mark on his cheek. Stop trying to help, he said woodenly. You're making everything worse. Just leave us alone. Catherine's hand was on his shoulder, squeezing. He was reciting a script. I ran back to school, arriving just as lunch concluded. My teacher marked me tardy, but I did not care. I had to do something. That afternoon, I made a decision. If the adults would not heed the evidence, perhaps they would listen to Brian himself. I began recording videos on my hidden phone, documenting everything. The dates, the timeline, the threats I had screenshotted before they were deleted. My name is narrator's name. I began, and I am about to tell you the truth about Catherine Davidson. I uploaded it to YouTube that night, then shared the link anonymously in the parent social media group. Within an hour, it had 50 views, then 100. Then my mother burst into my room. What have you done? The video was already being discussed in the group. Some parents were calling me a liar, but others were asking questions. Why would a 12-year-old fabricate this? What did he have to gain? You are grounded indefinitely, my mother declared. No school, no leaving the house, nothing until you take that video down. Excuse me, I retorted. Ground me forever if you wish, but that video remains online. My father appeared in the doorway. Janet, have you watched it? I do not need to watch falsehoods about that poor woman. I watched it, my father said quietly, and I think we need to consider that our son might be telling the truth. They argued for an hour. My mother accused my father of enabling my delusions. My father highlighted the evidence I had presented. Finally, my mother stormed out, stating she was staying at her sister's until this family regained its senses. Wednesday morning, the video had 2,000 views. Comments poured in. Some people called me a brat, but others shared their own experiences of false accusations, of how challenging it was for male abuse victims to be believed. Then Catherine retaliated. A new video appeared on the parent's social media page. Security footage from a store showing me stalking her at the library, another of me lurking outside her house. She had edited them to remove context, making me appear obsessed and dangerous. This disturbed child has been harassing my family, her post read. His father should be investigated for encouraging this behavior. I fear for my safety and my son's. The tide immediately turned against us. Parents demanded action. Some called for my father to be dismissed from his job for enabling stalking. Others advocated for my institutionalization. Principal Morrison contacted my father. I was suspended indefinitely, pending a psychological evaluation. The therapy appointments were now compulsory, not optional. But something unforeseen occurred. Brian's father's lawyer saw my video. He called my father that afternoon. Your son's video is the first genuine assistance we have received, he stated. Would he testify about what he has witnessed? He's 12, my father replied, and the community has already turned against him. I understand, but that video is prompting people outside your community to ask questions. Sometimes that is all it takes, one crack in the narrative. That night, I found myself unable to sleep. Brian was still trapped with Catherine, his father was still incarcerated, and now my family was also fracturing. But that video was still live, still circulating. Perhaps it would reach someone who could help. Thursday brought a breakthrough from an unexpected source. A woman named Sarah commented on my video. Catherine Davidson was my roommate in college. Everything this kid is saying aligns with what I witnessed. She put her ex-boyfriend in the hospital and convinced everyone he was the aggressor. I have photos. Sarah's comment included pictures from 20 years ago. Catherine with bruised knuckles, laughing about teaching him a lesson, and police reports where she was listed as the aggressor but managed to talk her way out of charges. I screenshotted everything before Catherine could have it removed. But Sarah did more than just comment. She contacted the police department where Brian's father was being held. She contacted local news stations. She contacted anyone who would listen. I stayed quiet 20 years ago, she told a reporter. I will not make that mistake again. By Friday, fissures were appearing in Catherine's story. The security footage she had posted was being scrutinized. Why was she filming a child? How did she possess footage from multiple locations? It seemed more like stalking than being stalked. Brian's father's lawyer utilized my video and Sarah's testimony to request an emergency custody hearing. A judge agreed to review the case on Monday. But Catherine was not finished. Friday afternoon, she contacted my father's workplace, alleging he had threatened her. She had a recording, cleverly edited from a voicemail he had left asking her to allow Brian to return to school. My father's boss summoned him. There would be an investigation. In the interim, my father was suspended with pay. I'm sorry, I told him that night. I ruined everything. No, my father said firmly. You championed the truth. That is never wrong, even when it costs us. My mother was still not home. She texted my father that she would not return until I sought help for my obsession. Our family was fractured, just like Brian's. Saturday, I spent the day refreshing the video statistics. 50,000 views now. News outlets were picking it up. Local boy's video sparks debate about believing abuse victims, read one headline. The comment section was a battleground. Catherine's supporters labeled me a monster, but more people were sharing their own narratives. Men who had been abused and disbelieved, children who had witnessed their fathers destroyed by false accusations. The narrative was shifting. Then Sarah posted again. This time, she had video. Old camcorder footage from college of Catherine admitting she had lied about her boyfriend. He was going to leave me, Catherine stated in the grainy video, so I made sure nobody would believe him when he tried. The smoking gun. I downloaded it immediately, backing it up everywhere I could conceive of. This was the proof everyone needed. But Catherine made one final, desperate move. Saturday night, she posted on social media that Brian had run away. My troubled son has been so brainwashed by his father's lies that he has fled our home. Please help me find him. Police issued an alert. The entire town was searching for Brian. Catherine played the desperate mother perfectly, even conducting a tearful interview with local news. I knew better. Brian would not run away. He had nowhere to go, which meant Catherine had done something with him, concealed him somewhere to lend credibility to her story. I contacted the police with my theory, but they dismissed me. The boy who had created the video was not a credible source, they stated. So I did the only thing I could think of. I went live on social media. Brian Davidson did not run away. I declared to my phone camera. His mother is hiding him somewhere. She has done this before. Sarah's evidence proves it. Brian is in danger. Please, someone help find him. The live video spread faster than anything I had posted previously. People began sharing Brian's photo, but not with Catherine's narrative. They shared it with warnings. This boy may be held against his will by his mother. Tips poured in. Someone had seen Catherine's car at an abandoned property outside town. Another reported strange noises from a storage unit she rented. The police, facing mounting public pressure, were compelled to investigate. They found Brian locked in Catherine's storage unit with a sleeping bag and some water. She had told him if he left, she would call his father. The news broke Sunday morning. Catherine was arrested. Brian was safe, traumatized, but physically unharmed. The footage of police leading Catherine away in handcuffs while she screamed about conspiracy was ubiquitous. But the true vindication arrived when they reviewed Brian's medical records with fresh eyes. The pattern was unmistakable. Injuries consistent with abuse, all from before his parents separated, all from when he lived primarily with Catherine. Brian's father was released immediately. The charges were dropped. The reunion video of Brian running into his father's arms went viral. The community that had condemned them was forced to confront an uncomfortable truth. They had been wrong. They had chosen comforting falsehoods over uncomfortable evidence. They had nearly destroyed an innocent family because believing a mother's tears was easier than questioning the narrative. Some apologized. Principal Morrison personally called to lift my suspension and Brian's father's school ban. Mrs. Patterson, surprisingly, appeared at our door with a casserole and tearful regret. But others doubled down, insisting Catherine was still the real victim, that we had all been deceived. The parent social media group fragmented into factions. Friendships dissolved. The community that had been so unified in its animosity was now divided by truth. My mother returned home Sunday night. She stood in the doorway of my room for a long moment before speaking. I was wrong, she stated simply. I was so focused on protecting you that I refused to see what was right in front of me. You were doing what you thought was right, I responded. No, she shook her head. I was doing what was easy, believing what everyone else believed because questioning it was too difficult. Our family slowly began to heal. The therapy sessions Dr. Reeves had insisted upon evolved into family sessions where we genuinely processed what had transpired. Brian and his father found a new apartment with assistance from a crowdfunding campaign Sarah initiated. The same community that had ostracized them now donated thousands to help them rebuild. At school, things were different. Some children treated me like a hero. Others whispered that I was a troublemaker who had destroyed a family. Brian and I ate lunch together, no longer caring what anyone thought. Thank you, he said one day, for not giving up, even when it cost you everything. You would have done the same for me, I replied. I don't know if I would have been brave enough, he admitted. To stand alone against everyone, to keep fighting when your own family turned against you. That took real courage. Catherine's trial was months away, but her reputation was shattered. The truth had finally caught up with her meticulously constructed lies. She had lost her son, her freedom, and the sympathy she had weaponized for so long. But the true victory was not her downfall. It was Brian's smile returning. It was his father securing a new job without whispers trailing him. It was a community slowly grasping that sometimes the truth is more intricate than the story they desire to believe. I also learned something. Upholding truth is not easy. It costs you friends, divides families, makes you question everything. But when you know you are right, when someone's life hangs in the balance, you persevere, even if it means becoming the antagonist in everyone else's story. Because sometimes, that is what heroes must do. Monday morning brought pandemonium. The emergency custody hearing was scheduled for 2 p.m., but Catherine was not going down without a struggle. She had retained 3 lawyers and launched a media blitz overnight, appearing on morning shows, claiming she was being persecuted by an online mob. I watched from my bedroom as she wept on television, recounting how her disturbed ex-husband had turned their son against her. She held up printed screenshots of my video, labeling it harassment. The host nodded empathetically while Catherine portrayed herself as a victim of cyberbullying. My father knocked on my door. "The lawyer wants to prep you for testimony. Are you ready for this?" I nodded, but my hands were trembling. One thing was posting videos online. Another was confronting Catherine in court. We met Brian's father's lawyer, Mr. Chun, at his office. He looked exhausted but resolute. "Your video changed everything," he informed me. "But Catherine's team will attempt to discredit you. They will claim you are just a child who was manipulated." What should I say? The truth. Stick to facts, not opinions. And whatever you do, do not let them unnerve you. Brian was also there, seated between his father and a social worker. He looked better than when I had seen him at Catherine's house, but shadows still lingered under his eyes. The social worker continued writing notes every time Brian moved. "They're evaluating me," Brian whispered when she stepped out, "to see if I'm being coached." The courthouse was packed. Parents from school filled the gallery, divided into distinct factions. Mrs. Patterson sat behind Catherine, while, surprisingly, Mrs. Chun from the library sat on our side. Local news cameras waited outside. Catherine entered, looking perfectly composed in a conservative suit, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. She had even brought props, a photo album of happier times with Brian that she clutched dramatically. The judge, a stern woman named Rodriguez, called the hearing to order. Catherine's lawyers immediately moved to exclude my testimony, labeling me an emotionally disturbed child with an unhealthy obsession. "Your Honor," one lawyer stated, "this boy has stalked my client, posted defamatory videos, and encouraged a hate campaign against a protective mother." Mr. Chin stood up. "Your Honor, this boy uncovered evidence of systematic abuse that authorities missed. His testimony is crucial." Judge Rodriguez studied me for a long moment. "I will allow it, but I will be vigilant for any signs of coaching." Catherine testified first. She was good, truly good. She cried at all the appropriate moments, her voice breaking as she described Brian's father's violent temper and how she had lived in fear for years. She displayed photos of bruises, conveniently cropped to obscure their age. "I only wanted to protect my son," she sobbed, "but his father poisoned him against me." Then came the cross-examination. Mr. Chin pulled up Sarah's video on a laptop. "Miss Davidson, do you recognize your own voice saying, 'I made sure nobody would believe him when he tried'?" Catherine's face went white. "That's taken out of context. I was young, dramatic. Were you being dramatic when you locked your son in a storage unit?" "I was protecting him. He was going to run to his father. By imprisoning him." Catherine's lawyers objected repeatedly, but the damage was done. Her facade was crumbling. Brian testified next. His voice was quiet but steady as he showed the judge his burned scars and explained the pattern of abuse. Catherine kept attempting to catch his eye, mouthing, "I love you," whenever the judge looked away. "She'd hurt us, then cry and say we made her do it," Brian recounted. "She'd say if we told anyone, they'd take me away forever." Then it was my turn. My legs felt like jelly as I took the stand. Catherine stared at me with unadulterated hatred. Her lawyer attacked immediately. "Isn't it true you have no friends except Brian?" "I have friends. But Brian was your first real friend, wasn't he? You'd do anything to maintain that friendship." I recalled Mr. Chin's advice, stick to facts. I saw evidence of abuse. I reported it. "You mean you saw what Brian wanted you to see? You took photos without permission, stalked my client." "I investigated the truth." "You're 12 years old. What makes you qualified to investigate anything?" I straightened up. "Being 12 doesn't make me stupid. It just means adults think they can lie to me." Gasps rippled through the gallery. The lawyer's face reddened. "Your Honor, this child's disrespect is honest," Judge Rodriguez interrupted. "Continue, young man." I recounted everything. The timeline, the evidence, Catherine's threats. Her lawyers kept objecting, but but I remained calm and factual. When they presented the stalking videos, I clarified the context Catherine had omitted. She knew I was gathering evidence, so she gathered her own, I explained. But she had to edit it because the truth didn't support her story. During a recess, Catherine cornered me in the hallway while my father was in the bathroom. "You little brat," she hissed. "You've ruined everything." I backed away, but she followed. "Brian will never forgive you for this. You've destroyed our family." "No," I said, loud enough for others to hear. "You destroyed it. I just showed everyone how." A bailiff appeared, and Catherine quickly reverted to the grieving mother persona, but several people had witnessed the encounter. When court resumed, 3 parents requested to testify. They had been in Catherine's inner circle, but were now harboring doubts. One mother described how Catherine had coached her on what to post in the social media group. Another revealed Catherine had asked her to lie about seeing Brian's father near the playground. "I thought I was helping," the woman confessed, ashamed. She seemed so convincing. Catherine's lawyers scrambled, but more cracks appeared. The hospital records she had submitted were analyzed by an expert who identified inconsistencies. The bruise photos were examined and found to be years old, predating the separation. By 4 p.m., Catherine's story had completely unraveled. But she had one last card to play. "Your Honor," she stood up, disregarding her lawyer's attempts to stop her. "If you give Brian to his father, I will harm myself. I cannot live without my son. His blood will be on your hands." The courtroom erupted. Brian began to cry. His father attempted to comfort him, while Catherine wailed dramatically. Judge Rodriguez slammed her gavel. "Miss Davidson, you have just made a threat of self-harm to manipulate this court. Bailiff, please escort Miss Davidson for psychiatric evaluation." "No." Catherine lunged toward Brian, but officers restrained her. "He's my son. You can't take him." As they dragged her out, she screamed at me. "This is your fault. You did this." The judge called a recess to allow everyone to compose themselves. In the hallway, parents who had supported Catherine looked shell-shocked. Mrs. Patterson approached me hesitantly. "I owe you an apology," she said quietly. I was so sure. "Mothers can be abusers too," I stated. She flinched but nodded. "I helped spread those lies about Brian's father. I don't know how to fix that." "Start by telling the truth," I suggested. When court reconvened, Judge Rodriguez delivered her verdict. Emergency custody to Brian's father, pending full review. Catherine will undergo psychiatric evaluation and supervised visits only if deemed safe. This court also recognizes the extraordinary courage of a young man who stood up for truth despite significant personal cost, she said, looking at me. Adults failed Brian Davidson. A 12-year-old did not. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. My father shielded me, but I overheard their questions. "How does it feel to be a hero? What made you keep fighting?" I was not a hero. I was just a child who could not tolerate injustice. That night, our phone rang constantly. News outlets, talk shows, everyone desired the story. My father declined them all. "You have been through enough," he said. My mother sat with me on the couch. "I'm proud of you," she said. "And I'm sorry I didn't listen. You were trying to protect me from the wrong thing," she admitted. I was so afraid of the monster everyone described that I couldn't see the real monster hiding in plain sight. Tuesday, I returned to school. The hallways felt different. Children stared, whispered, but not all of it was negative. Some nodded respectfully. Others still considered me a troublemaker who had destroyed a family. Brian was also there. We sat together at lunch, ignoring the stares. "My dad got a job interview," he said. "A company owner saw the news and said anyone who survived what he did deserves a chance." "That's great. It's in another state," Brian added quietly. "Dad thinks we need a fresh start." My heart sank. After everything, I was losing my best friend anyway. When, if he gets it? Next month, maybe. The remainder of the week was surreal. Catherine made bail, but was ordered to stay away from Brian and his father. She immediately resorted to social media, claiming she was being persecuted, but her support had evaporated. Even her lawyers quietly withdrew from the case. Principal Morrison held an assembly about rushing to judgment and the importance of evidence. He did not mention Brian's family directly, but everyone understood. Some teachers who had been coldest to Brian now went overboard being kind, which only made things awkward. My father's boss called him back to work early, apologizing for the suspension. "We had to investigate the complaint," he said, "but it's clear now it was harassment." Our family slowly found its rhythm again. My mother and father were careful with each other, rebuilding trust. The therapy sessions Dr. Reeves had mandated became genuinely helpful once she comprehended the true situation. "You showed remarkable moral courage," she told me. "But it's okay to feel angry about what it cost you." I was angry. Angry at the adults who had so easily believed falsehoods. Angry at the system that almost allowed Catherine to prevail. angry that doing the right thing had nearly shattered my family too. Friday afternoon, Sarah called. She was flying in for Catherine's criminal trial. I wanted to thank you, she said. For 20 years, I've carried guilt about remaining silent. You gave me a chance to make it right. You helped save Brian, I responded. We both did, but you started it. A 12-year-old had more courage than I did at 22. That weekend, the parent social media group imploded. Screenshots leaked of Catherine's private messages, instructing parents on what to post. Some parents turned on each other, arguing about who was most culpable. The group eventually disbanded entirely. Mrs. Patterson started a new group focused solely on verified information. She asked me to help moderate it. I declined. I had experienced enough parental drama. Brian's father secured the job. They would be relocating to Oregon in 3 weeks. We spent every day after school together, attempting to condense years of friendship into days. I'll visit, Brian promised, and there's video chat. It's not the same. No, he agreed, but it's better than me being trapped with her. Catherine's psychiatric evaluation revealed what everyone now knew. She had a pattern of manipulation and abuse spanning decades. She was charged with false imprisonment, child abuse, and filing false reports. Her trial would take months. The Tuesday before Brian departed, we sat in the park where everything had begun, where his father had rescued me from bullies what felt like a lifetime ago. I never properly thanked you, Brian said, for everything. You don't need to thank me. Yes, I do. He produced a wrapped box. Dad and I got you something. Inside was a compass on a chain, simple and elegant. So you always know the right direction, Brian explained, even when everyone else is lost. I put it on immediately. It felt right. Their moving day arrived too swiftly. The entire neighborhood watched as they loaded the truck. Some had the decency to appear ashamed. Others merely stared. Brian's father shook my hand. You saved our lives, he said simply. I will never forget that. Take care of him, I said. Always. Brian hugged me tightly. Best friends forever. Forever, I confirmed. I watched their truck disappear around the corner, the compass heavy against my chest. My mother put her arm around me. You did a good thing, she said, even though it hurts now. That night, I sat at my computer and began typing. Not another video or expose, just a simple post. Sometimes the truth costs everything. Sometimes you lose your best friend to save them. Sometimes being right feels worse than being wrong. But truth matters. Justice matters. And sometimes a 12-year-old has to remind adults of that. I posted it and closed my laptop. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new conflicts. Catherine's trial loomed. The community was still fractured. Some people would never forgive me for exposing their comfortable falsehoods. But tonight, I held the compass and remembered Brian's smile in the courthouse when the judge declared him free. That made everything worthwhile. My phone buzzed. A message from Brian. Made it to Oregon. Dad smiling. Real smiling. Thank you. I smiled too. A real smile, for the first time in months.